Well, just a little follow-up on the Annapolis conference, the peace conference that Bush has just sponsored between the Israelis and the Palestinians, which, as most of us feared, was just another photo op for this administration, and not much has been achieved. As a matter of fact, nobody could even agree on the official press statement as an underlying foundation for the conference in terms of the language, let alone the issues that are involved in the first place. So it is basically an intractable situation at this point, and some other negotiations, another administration probably could help some more. But I believe that at this point, the United States has lost all credibility in terms of the broker for these negotiations in the first place, because our position has been so biased towards Israel while proclaiming to protect the Palestinians and wanting a two-state solution. This has basically been railroaded at every turn through UN resolutions and everything else, underhanded negotiations and so on. So the situation is quite hopeless at this point. That's my assessment of it, and Noam Chomsky thinks there is some hope. Actually, he had high hopes for Annapolis, for this Annapolis conference. But once again, these hopes were dashed. And essentially, there can't be any other solution than a two-state solution to this problem. But Israel cannot be supported by the United States in order to divvy up the Palestinian state into little enclaves, which mean absolutely nothing in terms of cohesion of a people, because they are living and have been living for years and years as prisoners in their own land, with no freedom of movement, no freedom to go to work. People have to stand in line literally for 4 or 5 hours just to get to their jobs in some other territories in their own so-called state. And it is an economic disaster being fostered by our own country and Israel. And so people over there are just, they are hopeless, they're mad, and this is one of the reasons why people become hopeless and they resort to extreme actions like terrorism. And maybe, somebody should pay attention to that, because once people are pushed into a corner, there isn't much else left to do. And so Arafat was sidelined, and he was actually a moderate. He tried to negotiate, and he was no more corrupt than any of the Israeli players in their own government. He was a good negotiator, and probably too good, and that's why they wanted him out. And as a result of that, now you have a more hardline stance through Hamas, who got voted overwhelmingly through a democratic election in the Palestinian territories and by the population, because they're so frustrated they want something to be done. And of course now the situation is even worse than it was 10 years ago. So there's a lot of work to be done, and for us to be supporting the state of Israel in more and more hardline policies is extremely counterproductive, not only for us as Americans, because we're spending billions of dollars on supporting Israel and their military and strategic goals, when in the long term, all of this, in my opinion, is completely counterproductive not only for us, but also for Israel itself. Because much of the hatred against the West and Israel stems from these hardline policies, and unless people are unless people are willing to give a little bit, nothing is going to be resolved. And this administration, the Bush administration and previous administrations, haven't done too good of a job at this. So I'm not sure what to say about it, but in essence, Annapolis, these negotiations are a farce. And if anything is to happen, our support for the Israeli lobby wholeheartedly needs to stop, because we're now no longer being seen as an honest broker, and probably somebody else should be doing the handling all of these negotiations over there. It's it's a very dangerous situation, and it's escalating with the tensions with Iran, and somebody else, some other nation, non-involved in any of this, should serve as the honest broker. But then, of course, realistically, that's probably not going to happen. So I just wish it would, because some of these tensions could be resolved in a few years if we just had some honest negotiations in all of this. We don't need more wars in the Middle East. And it's draining everyone's resources, for all people all over the planet. And it's not right. So, well, good night.